Revo hubless bicycle.
Look at that guy looking at it like that. What the f is that?
Raised over $6.7 million on Indiegogo before the
$7,000, by the way.
E-bike that raised over
$7,000. Jesus. Imagine paying a bike $7K. I mean, I do understand that it's like a prototype and they have to do R&D and they have to develop it and whatever, but $7K sounds like a novelty more than actual product, if that makes sense.
$7 million on Indiegogo before the company up and vanished, leaving everybody who ordered one without a bicycle or asking for a refund, except for the customer who bought this bicycle. He sold it to me on eBay at a loss after seemingly not riding it at all. From what I can find, of the 2,700 people who ordered a Revo hubless bicycle, only about 150 actually got them.
That's another thing that he'll probably get into, but like that's another thing with like companies on like GoFundMe, stuff like that. When they're making like physical stuff or like even like video games, most of the time people just like don't get what they are asking for. It's very weird. Like most of the time companies just disappear. At least that's another thing that I kind of realized. It's like a thing that happens with this kind of stuff.
Delivered before everything fell apart, and if the things I'm reading about it are true, it might be the worst bicycle ever made. And today I'm gonna ride it for the first time.
Not gonna lie, it looks cool. Like it looks cool. Like without like rims, without it actually has any thingy in the middle. I don't know what's called, rims or whatever. Like it's just like empty. It looks pretty futuristic. It looks sci-fi, like straight out of from like what was the name of the movie, Tron or something. Where they were like racing with bikes and whatever, or like Detroit Become Human. That's what this looks like. It looks futuristic.
Time and find out. Clearly,
Average America. I mean, are you even surprised? What is that thing? Like, what are the chances of that you encounter this car while you're filming a video about a futuristic e-bike? That's like, I mean, I don't even know what to say. Look at that goofy thing. Look how big it is. What's the point?
the thing looks insane. The wheel is just this big, open, hubless donut, but there's a reason most bicycles have hubs.
Right, hubless, right. Hubless bikes, they exist and they look very cool.
It's really hard to do, and they had to make a lot of sacrifices to make the Revo hubless. And apparently, people were not very happy with it. It wasn't a very good bike. What went wrong with their Indiegogo campaign? Now, as you can see, they spared no expense on this promotional video. This guy uses the fingerprint scanner to secure his Revo at a cafe, only to get a tamper notification initiated by a woman admiring his Revo. They then make a bunch of claims about the bike, like how smooth it rides and how revolutionary the pedal.
The classic generic Silicon Valley tech bro startup trailer for your products, if that makes sense, right? The most generic thing that you can ever see.
Pedal assist is, and they ask you to join the Revolution. And
cringe.
But that was almost 5 years ago. Today, the comment section's full of
5 years ago would be like 2019 or something, 2020.
Desperately trying to contact Revo. And if you visit Revo's social pages, it's just more of the same. But their website is truly damning, a GoDaddy parking page. That's an obituary if I've ever seen one. So what happened here? Well,
that's the thing with these things, like no matter how many times you want to contact the actual company itself through like reviews or something, or like negative reviews, once they go under, you're never getting any answers from them. It's gone. They're not gonna answer anything. They're not gonna make themselves any more public. They just want to disappear, right? That's the easiest way out.
Well, let's get to know the Revo and we'll find out.
Look at that grandpa going.
So right now the motor is not on.
It's quite loud, by the way. You can hear.
I am pedaling it. Can you believe how loud it is?
Yes, very loud. That's very, very loud.
The second you start pedaling this thing, you start noticing a lot of stuff, and I'm gonna try and break it down. Let's start with the wheels, because I think that's a lot of where it's stemming from. Any bike, even e-bikes, they just roll, right? As soon as you stop pedaling, it just rolls on forever. It's like gliding. You just feel the resistance every step of the way on this thing, whether or not you're pedaling. Look at this. I don't know if you've ever spun a
Yeah, there's a lot of resistance, you can tell. The wheel just stops immediately.
normal bike wheel, but it's very much unlike that. A normal bike wheel has spokes, and then there's a hub in the middle, and that hub is extremely reliable. They haven't changed much in 100 years, and a modern hub, you can restore to...
Yeah, classic engineering mindset. If you're an engineer, you would know. If a machine, if a design, if something works, don't touch it, or there's a chance that you'll break it and you'll have to work on it. So if something works, you just leave it. Like if something is simple and it's simplified and it just works, you don't touch it.
Like new condition for $1. They just take these little bearings that you can pop in. This has, I don't know, a bearing the entire way around, and so there's a lot more resistance, and I suspect you can't service it because they don't sell parts for it. The company doesn't exist anymore, and it's not like you could rob some parts off another hubless wheel. And so let this sink in.
Yeah, it makes sense.
The entire premise.
Everything is like design. It's like essentially like designer bicycle.
Revo hubless bicycle is that it lacks one of the most reliable moving parts ever made. Certainly one of the most reliable moving parts on a modern bicycle. And in its place, they replace it with an unserviceable, heavy, complicated, and noisy hubless wheel. Yet, they're making the claim that this bicycle is revolutionary, that it's got a really smart pedal assist, and that it's really smooth. They even advertise its lightweight core. This is one of the heaviest bicycles I've ever picked up in my life. They say it's like 70-something pounds.
Yeah, it's very heavy. The reason why it's very heavy, I can guarantee it, because one of the reasons, at least like one of the main reasons, is because, if I have to guess, it's probably the battery in the middle of the device. That's like electric battery. That's like probably weighs a ton.
I think it's heavier.
Which is not a real thing in like normal bicycles, right?
Underneath this big plastic clamshell is likely just big solid pieces of aluminum and steel. Maybe we'll take it apart later and find that out. But we've got a lot to cover before then, because I haven't even registered the fingerprint scanner or any of the security features they advertised. So I'm downloading...
Of course you have to have an app. Every single product nowadays, they all need to have apps. If you don't have apps, then like it's a thing with like Silicon Valley startup tech bros, where like you have to have an app. It's just a bike, man. It's not a big deal. Unless there's like a subscription service, which in that case, if the bike that I'm buying has a subscription service, why would I buy your bike? I would just go buy a cheaper and a normal bike, and there's no app, there's no subscription service. Why am I downloading an app for a bike? Maybe to find this location. This is an e-bike, you can find this location when it's lost. Maybe. Other than that, I can't see any other reason.
The Revo app, which still exists because this thing has a whole bunch of features. For example, in here, it's supposed
Which is surprising that the app still exists, by the way. You would think that the app would just get discontinued after they just go dark. Usually what happens in these scenarios, but I think they're just keeping the app there. So I guess so that they don't get sued to hell.
supposed to have a SIM card slot so you can GPS track the thing. There is a built-in fingerprint
Right,
scanner
okay, so
here
what I said was true. GPS tracking, right.
that secures the bike, and if you lock it with the fingerprint scanner...
Now, see, that's... I'm guessing that the fingerprint scanner stops, like, somehow locks the wheels in place so that you can't... So that whoever is, like, trying to steal your bike can't actually make the bike go forward and, like, actually move it, because the mechanism that's inside the bike is like automatically like locking the wheels in place, so you just cannot actually budge it.
There's supposed to be a wheel lock back here that keeps the bike from going, and so I want to be able to use all that. It's asking me to register a new bike, and so let's see how that works. I think we might actually be able to get this app to work.
I highly doubt if the company went under, like, and their website is not working, I highly doubt that their servers are still alive. Whatever server that they were using, it's already gone.
1-1.
It's not gonna work.
All right, the instruction manual gave me a default pairing code. I'm using that. I'm looking on Reddit threads, and I can't get this thing paired.
Yeah, see,
we're
no.
off to a great start. Now,
No.
normally I'd say this is no problem because most electric bicycles have a little display screen that tells you how much battery you have left, how fast you're going, what assist mode you're in. But on the Revo, because it's high tech, they want you to use your smartphone.
No. It's not high tech. It's stupid tech. That's what this is. It's just stupid, pretentious sci-fi tech that you see in like movies and stuff or like TV shows. This is just pretentious. This is just like garbage. It's just shovelware essentially. It's unnecessary.
Everybody loves that. And as you can see here, they give you some adhesive to attach your smartphone to the handlebars. So the phone's all mounted to the handlebars. We got the Revo app running. Let's start talking.
Wait a minute. If it's adhesive, then how can you take your phone off that handlebar in the first place? Is it magnets? I'm assuming it's
about how
magnets.
this thing actually functions as a bike. And one of the first things you're going to notice when you start riding it after you've absorbed the noise and the terrible ride is how hard it is to stop. I'm going to go a reasonable speed down this bridge, and I'm going to start applying my brakes right here. Let's see how long it takes me to stop. That was a full-on emergency stop. I had both of my entire hands on the brake levers, gripping them as hard as I could, and it could barely stop the bike. That's really alarming. And given the weight of the bike and the airless tires and just all the sketchiness, it has no business going this fast with brakes like this. Brakes are effectively the most important safety.
Nah, see, man, you don't understand. The reason why it's so hard to actually drive the bike, actually cycle, is because that's like a workout in of itself, right? So you want to live healthy, there you go. High resistance training on a bicycle where you're just pedaling, and it's just like, you know, there's your daily workout, easy as day.
Safety feature on any bicycle, let alone an e-bike that weighs 70 pounds. That $200 bike I bought on Amazon had pretty decent brakes actually. They were cable actuated disc brakes. This doesn't have a hub, and so it can't have rotors, and so can't have disc brakes. So they're using cheap caliper brakes like you would find on, I don't know, a kid's bike from the early 1990s, except that bike
seems like normal brakes to me. I don't know. I haven't used bicycles in like years now. It's been like 10 years since I used one, so I wouldn't know. Seems like normal bikes to me, but I wouldn't know.
Oh my god, that took all my might. And so I've already mentioned several times that this is in fact an e-bike, and so let's talk about that. An e-bike is supposed to pedal like a normal bicycle. And
the worst thing about this, I'm already guessing, even before maybe he mentions it in the ahead in the video, but like even before that, I just have to mention this. I'm guessing that the charging of this thing probably takes hours overnight. Probably charging is probably super slow with this one, if I had to guess.
Then also have electric assist, and so it should do both. And as you can see, there's no chain or sprockets or anything down here. The drivetrain's all inside it, and presumably everything that makes this wheel go kind of is enclosed in here, except on this thing, it is extremely difficult to pedal. Very inefficient, and then when you stop
right, so it's just rear wheel drive. It's not like both wheels drive. So you actually cannot make both wheels go at the same time if you're pedaling. But if you're using electronic, right, just power it through like a normal e-bike would be. I'm guessing like you can use both wheels, but if you're just pedaling, then you can only use rear drive, right? So I'm just guessing that it's probably extremely hard to actually pedal this thing. It probably takes a lot of effort just to like pedal, right?
It stops almost immediately. And so let's be honest, nobody's going to be using this as an analog bicycle. You're going to be using electric assist.
Unless you're overweight and you want to lose weight. That's one thing, you know. Hey, it's quite an expensive option to lose weight, but I'm not judging as long as you're losing weight. You do you, I guess.
because it is so hard to pedal without it, it's not even on the table. But it's a terrible e-bike too. Okay.
Something already broke.
E-bike for close to 30 seconds. I went over that bridge, just like a little lip, like a bump. After I hit that bump, the back started making noises. Let's examine this and see if it's something that could ever be repaired.
Yeah, look at that. Poop.
It's like there's a jump in the wheel. It's done. It's garbage. Right? Where am I going to get replacement parts for this thing? And all I did was ride down a bikeway.
Something is like clicking in there. Something's like thump, 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 thump. It still seems to be working.
It still goes, so let's keep...
It still seems to be working.
How bad it is.
Let's give him that. You know, you're gonna keep hearing that sound, like that thump sound in the background. Listen to this over and over again. It's quite annoying, but at least it still works. You know.
Guys, I had a whole video planned here. Like, I spent money on the bike, and I was planning on selling it afterwards. Now it's broken. And then half the things I want to show you don't even work. It's so much worse than I thought. But it's not for lack of trying. They really tried to put a lot of good features on this. Let me show you some of them, and you tell me whether this is something a bicycle needs. So check it out. The fingerprint scanner over here, you can move it left or right, and it will actually put on signals.
That's pretty cool.
It's good to have lighting on a bike. That's a good safety feature. Of course, you can.
Yeah, if you're planning on driving this on like night, you know, on a road at night, or if you want to drive this on like in a city or something like New York, and you live like a really, really crowded, busy area, that can work. This is like a useful feature. So I'll give him that. That's actually good.
Stop, so it doesn't really matter, but it does have signals and brake lights, and that's one of the unique things about these wheels. You can put stationary things on them because they're not spinning. So what do you think these little handle things are? These stay just like this when the bike is in motion. It's to carry a bag. They actually made a custom Revo bag, and it goes inside the wheel. That brings the
and of course, let me guess, you have to buy that bag extra and pay like $30 for it, because it doesn't actually come with the bike itself, if I have to guess. And it's only can like carry like your phone, because it just looks so small anyway. And I highly doubt there's any depth to the actual bag itself. So it's pretty much useless.
The center of gravity way down, and it's actually...
You can probably fit your small daily bag hand carry here, and then it'll probably act as a like, you know, you just put it there and you just drive, I guess.
Really pretty freaking functional. And so if this was a good bike and
I yeah, look at that one.
all the time, I would put some kind
of honey, I'm carrying the milks and the grocery.
Storage container in here, but of course it breaks after you hit one bump, and so we can't do that. Now, I mentioned before the Revo has airless tires, which amount to just rubber wrapped around the wheel, but if they did have pneumatic tires, if they did take air and you had to change one, I don't think you'd have to take the bike apart at all. Look at this. The wheel on the front, it's just attached on one side, and it's all open over here. You can access the entire tire.
Yeah.
And they've done the same thing on the rear. It's open right over here. So if this was a normal bike, you'd be able to air it down, use a tire lever, and just take the tire straight off. But I'm not really sure what we do here. So let me show you something on the other side of the bike. Oh, it's so heavy. Okay, the kickstand. So they call this an invisible kickstand because you flip it up and it just melds into the frame.
That's pretty cool. That's good design.
Styling, actually, but it's a terrible kickstand, I'm sorry to say. Now, it is pretty easy to flip down because you just push on the side of the frame and there it goes. But most kickstands, when you put the bike in motion, it goes up. This kickstand locks into place like this and kind of goes in reverse. So I find myself getting on the bike and trying to go, and then having the kickstand kind of bind up. But they actually made the wheel.
I cannot comment on this one because I've never actually had a bike like that in my life. Maybe nowadays every single bike is like this. Again, the last time that I drove a bike that I, was on top of a bike, that I was, cycling, it was like 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. I cannot comment on this now, right? I don't know if bikes actually have kickstands that just like go up when you try to drive now. But back in my day when I was a kid, when I was cycling a bike, It was manual. There was nothing automatic about it. I have no idea, so I cannot comment on this one.
Lock when the kickstand is engaged. So when the kickstand is up, this wheel can turn freely.
I mean, that's a cool feature, not gonna lie. So make sure that the bike doesn't just roll away, right? It just locks the actual wheel itself in place. That's good. That's good. I don't know. I cannot hate that one. That seems like a good safety feature, so that when you just get off your bike, go do whatever, your bike doesn't just roll down the street by itself and hits a pedestrian or something.
When you put the kickstand down, it is locked, and I suppose that if you had the app, it would actually stay locked and not be able to flip up. I don't really know. While the engineers were testing the Revo, they must have realized how bad the ride was because they put a suspension seat post on it. Does almost nothing to make the ride better. Oh, I forgot this is all brick. But as you can see, the seat post has a little spring in it, and when you push down on it, it gives. Kind of sucks. There are actually pretty good suspension seat posts, like the Thud Buster. This is not that. This is a cheap,
what is that?
Pretty good suspension seat posts, like the.
This is the first time I'm ever. Are they selling now suspension seat for bikes now? Back in my day, like as if I'm old, we didn't have stuff like this. $200, bro. $200 just to make your butt comfortable on a bike. That's crazy.
Thud Buster. This is not that. This is as cheap a suspension seat post as you can get. Now, I did show you before this cool little phone mount because the Revo is supposed to operate with an app. And they thought of putting this USB port over here, which is of course powered by the battery that makes the bike go. That's actually a really smart feature. I wish more e-bikes had that, because if you have your phone mounted up here, be it horizontally or vertically, you might want to be able to charge it. I guess it would have been kind of nice if this was Type-C, but I mean, what are we really expecting at this point? So good thinking. That's one good feature of the Revo. And you can't.
Yeah, and that one good feature, it also means that your battery is gonna drain faster, and you're gonna have to start pedaling uphill. Good luck with that one.
Ignore the styling. That's the Revo's killer feature, and to their credit, they did a good job here. It's really
Bike looks good, not gonna lie. Just aesthetic-wise, it looks good.
striking. It's the most unique bike I've ever reviewed, for sure. But I can't tell whether people are looking at me because of that or because it's so noisy. And so I'm going to take it into
Probably
town
both.
and park
I would
it
say
in a couple
probably a little bit
places,
of
and
both.
we're going to see what people's reactions are. All right, so we
Make sure
survived
to stay
getting
hydrated.
downtown. I'm walking it down the sidewalk, and I discovered something
Just from the video, I assume that it's probably they actually lowered the volume quite a bit, so that's actually not uncomfortable for the viewer itself. But I can guarantee you, in real life, that thing probably sounds so loud.
terrifying about this bike. So when you push it along, the pedals move because it's just not very mechanically sound. And so if you push it fast enough, the pedals actually engage the pedal assist, and it's a chain reaction. The bike keeps going. Watch this. Okay, so you're walking your bike and you kind of jog across the street a little bit. And it kicks in. And so you might say,
That's pretty dangerous, not gonna lie. That is actually like really, really dangerous. I mean, I understand what the engineers were probably thinking, and I kind of see where they're coming from, right? It's like, oh, you know, the bike is picking up, the person wants to get on, and they want to, you know, cycle, right? But what happens if you're not on? That seemed very dangerous. You can hit somebody with that one.
just turn it off. I can't turn
Especially
it off.
if you're like a woman or a kid who's driving this, the bike starts going, you probably can't even hold on to it because it's just going so fast. There's probably overpowering you. It probably goes all the way down the street, hits a car or something. And then now you have to pay insurance or whatever, right? You have to like cover the damages.
I tried holding down the power button on the battery, everything. The only way to do that is to take the battery out, but I need the keys to take it out, and I don't have the keys on me. So this thing is just a death trap. Look at that. This happens to be the worst bicycle ever made.
Oh no!
I like the way it looks. First thing I do is put me a big seat on that thing. I can't stand it.
Both on and off camera today, I've gotten a lot of reactions from people, and most people ask, how fast does it go? People who don't know bikes, they notice that it looks crazy, but they can't quite pinpoint what it is. They're just like, that's a crazy bike.
Wheels. The wheels. The wheels, it looks futuristic, it looks sci-fi. The wheels.
Fast does it go? And so we must consider who ordered these. I don't think it was bicycling enthusiasts. It was people who saw it and said, that thing looks cool, that thing looks awesome.
Most likely.
That price tag is
People who can somehow waste $7,000 on it, which is mental.
Yeah, we go back to the comments and we see what those customers think now. We got ripped off. This was a scam. But
Of course
really,
they did.
was it? Were they trying to scam people? I don't think so. So again, they ended up...
Most likely what happened was they were not trying to scam people. They actually believed in this idea. And then while developing this stuff, they realized how hard it was to do, how costly it was. Developing the app as well, developing the bike itself, manufacturing it. It probably outcosted whatever money that they actually managed to collect in like GoFundMe or whatever. And then they were like, you know what? We're canceling it, going bankrupt because this is just too expensive to make in the first place. It costs more than $7,000 to actually produce this bike in the first place for us to make any just like, even just to break even. That's what I'm guessing, right?
Making this, and it was delivered to some people, and most of the people who did get their Revo complained about it. They complained about the noise, they complained about all the things that I'm complaining about today. But to their credit, Revo tried to correct some of those issues. They made several batches of them, and they kept trying to fix different things about them. And so I don't know what batch this is from, but the later your batch, the better the Revo. And so people are like, okay, the $6.7 million, they just ran away with that. I don't see how
that's a lot of money.
that because they actually produced the bike. And so there was engineering, there was tooling, there was order.
Oh my god, they're using
It looks like
3D.
they spent a lot on marketing and reputation management because every single article about this thing is positive, and I don't see how that could be legitimate journalism. And so for people that are saying that this was a scam,
Probably
that it was
paid,
vaporware,
most likely paid.
just objectively
Similar to video game
untrue.
journalism,
I think
I
it
would
was
assume.
unethical. I think it was wildly irresponsible, but I don't think they were trying to
Look at him
people.
go.
I think they really thought that this was gonna take off.
It's
and
his
be
bike now,
successful,
it's his bike now,
even
it's
though
gone.
It is the worst bicycle.
That guy's having the time of his life, look at him.
So what this bike really seems like to me is a prototype that never made it out of the prototype
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
phase. They just started manufacturing these prototypes and sending them out to people. This is what a product would look like from a legitimate company before it goes through 3 or 4 rounds of polishing to fix all the problems.
Yeah.
So if you were a fly on the wall behind the scenes, what you would probably see is them just rushing it out the door, just justifying it. It's not that bad. Yeah, it's got a really bad ride, but we put that suspension seat post on it, so it's good now. Runs like a prototype. It's as easy to find replacement parts for as a prototype. Look, if you sign
Yeah,
into a
pretty
crowdfunding
much.
site and you back something, you're taking a risk, especially if it's something as experimental as this. But just disappearing and leaving all your backers in the
Ooh,
dark,
that's pretty cool. That was a nice shot. Getting the camera through the actual bike wheel itself. That's pretty cool.
that's pretty unethical. That's pretty crappy. And so we can only hope that the makers of this bike
It makes for a great
rise from
shot,
the
though.
ashes to sue me, because then they'll be revealing themselves to all their backers. And so is the Revo really the worst production bicycle ever made? Well, let's be objective and just go by what I've experienced today. It's loud, it's heavy. You can't turn it off, apparently. It has a terrible ride thanks to the airless tires. It's extremely difficult to pedal. You can't get replacement parts for it. The motor appears to kick on whenever it feels like, and actually, if you push it fast enough, it starts a chain reaction that just sets the bicycle in perpetual motion. Actually, I wonder what happens if we just do that and let go of it.
Oh god, don't. It's gonna go forever, you know that, right? It's gonna go on forever. Yeah, you just broke the damn thing. Yep, it just completely... it just put the cap back on, just like, yeah, let's drive. No, meaningless.
So
Who
it's
cares?
been a week now with the Revo, and it's the ultimate collector's bike. I'm not so sure I want to ghost ride this thing again.
It's a novelty item. You get it, you put it in your garage, you drive every once a year or twice a year. You show it to your friends, you show it to people in the public. Everybody looks at it and like in awe. They're like, wow, what is this thing? It's a novelty item. Everybody thinks that you're cool, and then you just put it in your garage and you wait until next year to show it again. That's pretty much what this thing is, right?
Looks insane. It's interesting. It has a story. There's a whole community of people trying to keep these things running, and it's got a whole bunch of Easter eggs like this brown piece of tape over here. What do you suppose this is covering up? Well, you can see they color match this tape to the frame very poorly to cover up the company name. Benno, Bino, the parent company of Revo, and one could imagine that shortly after they made this mold, they realized that the project was going south and they wanted to distance their company name from it.
Ooh, that's smart.
It is out to,
That's smart.
I don't know how many people are going to see.
They did a poor job of it, but that's smart. If they actually picked the correct color and made it less visible, it might have worked. Probably people still would have found it, but that's a cool Easter egg. That's sly people. Sly people. They're trying to cover it up.
This video.
It's like, oh no, this has nothing to do with us.
Funding
Don't look at
projects
here.
are risky. A lot of them fail. People know that before they go into it, but there's an ethical way to fail, and then there's just leaving all your backers in the dark wondering what happened. And so, knowing they were going to do their backers dirty, they covered their name up with a piece of tape so that nobody would ever know. Now, on the other hand, if you own a Revo and you've somehow been keeping it running, trading parts with other owners, I think that's cool. That's the kind of masochistic bike ownership that I can get behind. The Revo's a head turner. It's a concept bike.
All right, well, that was that.